Go.
Well, welcome once again, Storm fans, to this edition of the Graveyard Shift, your official, unofficial, entirely fan-based, very pro-Melbourne Storm biased podcast. My name is Dubs. I'm joined by our favourite Polish import, the Poleman, although perhaps there were a few other Polish imports we've discovered who have played rugby league here in Australia, but that's a conversation for a later point. Firstly, my apologies for being unavailable last week. Struck down with illness, not COVID, so don't stress, folks. I'm not in quarantine or isolation, no more than any of you other good folks are anyway. Well, what can we say about the Melbourne Storm? They've been hit by the casualty ward as hard as anything, but on the plus side, the results have been fantastic, continuing, and we are making a charge for the top four and for another tilt at a premiership. But the Poleman, the injuries pile up. Can we possibly keep this going?
Welcome, Dubs, and welcome, viewers. I mean, you know, they are piling up. I thought last week I didn't expect to win by as much, and I think most Storm fans will probably sort of be on the same wavelength with me, I think. I mean, a lot of Storm fans went in there quietly confident. The bookies certainly wrote us off. We were paying something like $3. I don't think the Storm's ever paid that such long odds for God knows how long.
Certainly not while we've been a top four side.
Yeah, and it was smart money too. Like, I'm not a betting person. I don't encourage anyone to gamble. But, you know, if you're know anything about the NRL, you'd know that, okay, they might have so many players out, but then, you know, we shouldn't have been $3, you know.
No, if this was the 2019 Roosters maybe, but not the current Roosters, they are still very, very good, but they're not the dominant force they were the previous 2 years. And despite our injuries, we've still been a very good form side. So $3 would be silly.
Correct. And I think what the last 2 weeks in particular have proven is that it's the system. It's like, yeah, we've got some individual brilliant players, but it's the system, it's the work ethic, it's the team spirit, it's the morale, it's all those, not uncoachables. You can obviously I mean, they are very much coachable, but it's all those things that, you know, are out of that. It's not just the player. All those things outside of just talent. You know, every club's got talent, right? Everyone's got the equal salary cap. I think a few weeks ago we saw what some of those players at other clubs were earning. Like, Cam Smith's not the highest player in the league, even though he's clearly the best. So there's a lot of talent out there, but they don't have, you know, I guess the coaching, the structure, the system, and all those other X factors that we have. And for me, like, I always knew that we're going to be a challenging for the premiership. Especially last week, but the last 2 weeks have really shown to me that we're the real deal this year. And I'm really confident that, you know, with finals, the stars have to align a little bit for you as well, who you get, who you face, injuries at the time and all that. But I think despite injuries, I think we're still going to be one of the best teams in the league. So, yeah, I'm really confident. I think the boys and the players, the staff, and everyone needs to be really proud of their efforts. But onwards and upwards, the job's not done. We've still got a long way to go. This week will be interesting. We've got more players out against another top four side. So let's see what happens there.
I'm going to hark back to something that I think it might sound funny, but Melbourne Storm actually has a very powerful culture and a strong culture, which seems funny for a few reasons. Because if you're a sporting traditionalist, especially if you're from north of the border, you hate the Melbourne Storm because they were a club that was created to expand NRL into the south, into the Victorian market. You'd also probably have expected it would have flopped a lot more than it did, certainly off field. The reality is Melbourne Storm has become ensconced in Victoria. Aside from having a lot of diehard fans itself, just about every AFL Aussie Rules fan puts the Melbourne Storm as a team they follow. So it has an enormous following down here. It's got a diehard core and a good following beyond that. And that's funny because a team that we might call a franchise or a plastic team or something else in other circumstances, that charge could have been levelled against the Storm easily early on. I think if you wanted proof that it developed a culture as a real club, as a genuine club that people care about, go back to 2010 when we had the fiasco with the salary cap blew up. Now, that's the kind of thing that could have derailed the club completely, because that's the kind of thing that could have actually driven people away or made people think, what a farce, they can't win without cheating, etc. All the crap that was thrown against us. On the contrary, actually, even though we were playing for 0 points in 2010, which in itself was a farcical decision, you know, basically saying we'll punish you for the past and for the present as well. Anyway, we won't get into that because we go for hours. We actually went and smacked a bunch of teams in the weeks after that. So we ruined other people's seasons, which was a big middle finger to the rest of them. And then we bounced back the following year. We were top four consistently over the next 8 or 9 years, had 4 more grand final appearances, a couple more premierships. Really, we've just said, hey, this is actually a team that people care about, and it thrives because people care about it. And I think in a roundabout way, I'm coming to your answer, that a lot of that comes to Craig Bellamy as well, certainly the on-field side of it, that you can have a situation where the best player possibly ever, certainly the best player of the current generation, Cam Smith, is out. A young kid named Brandon Smith, who's a bit of a cult hero, admittedly, he's certainly got talent. He's parachuted into that number 9 role and holds his own, more than holds his own. You've got a situation where one of the best playmakers in the league, one of the best 5'8", Cam Munster, is unavailable. You parachute Riley Jacks, who is, not disrespectfully, a role player, a bit part player. He's a reserve. He's able to play that role effectively because the rest of the team keeps its structure around him, meaning he doesn't need to be the superstar wearing that jersey. So that's fantastic, because I actually thought Riley Jacks in that situation looked better than he has in previous years. So we seem to have found that kind of role for him, that if he needs to step into those shoes, he's able to do that role effectively. I mean, he did it against the Roosters. He's done it a couple of times this year against the Roosters, so good on him. And I think it also speaks volumes of our depth, particularly in the forwards. So even with injuries and more injuries coming, we'll talk about the preview in a moment, we've still got a good starting forward pack, which is unbelievable. We're a little bit lighter on in the backs, admittedly, but our forward pack is still going to look first rate despite missing a couple of key players. So I don't think any of us expected to blow the Roosters away, but I don't think anyone who's watching it should be shocked with how well we played, because to borrow a cliche from an Aussie rules coach, it's one soldier goes down, another one replaces him. So right now, you know, Cameron Smiths, Cam Munsters, they were out of the side, but Riley Jacks came in, Brandon Smith took the number 9, and they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, thinking about the actual game, you know, it was Jerome Hughes, I think, needs to take a big credit for how well we played.
Fantastic.
The guys just, I mean, everyone's talking about him at the moment, but we need to give him a mention. The guys just stepped up so much this year. Another one is, I think I mentioned him in our last show, Christian Welch. He's just ferocious, really leading that forward pack.
His hit-up numbers were ridiculous the other night.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
And he just gets through work. Apparently, he's got Polish ancestry too, Dubs. So
that was the. So I'm sorry, you've been replaced as the most important Polish import on this show. Yeah. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. My wife might hear me.
Yeah. Anyway, and no, you're right. I think a lot of positive. Like, you can't really think of anyone who had a bad game the other night.
I thought Olam was outstanding. I've always thought he was talented and capable, but I thought he did. I thought he showed why he could be, if he keeps developing the way we want him to, why he could end up being a pivotal cog for that team. You know, I really did wonder when Will Chambers and Curtis Scott left, what are our centres going to look like? And yes, we've had a bit of rotation in there, but fantastic effort by Olam, and I'd love to see he and Sebe fit. I think that'd be a great pairing going into finals. Fingers crossed the injury table looks right.
Olam's good, but I don't know. He tends to. His decision making isn't the best for me sometimes. Was it the Bulldogs game where was it Addo Carr was clear, like he's in the clear, but he held the Bulldogs player back, and it was like, why did you do that? Like, there was no need.
It was a very silly thing to do. But again, I'd put that down to perhaps a little bit of over enthusiasm. He shot himself in the foot there, but I think that's the kind of mistake you don't make too many times. And look, I'm not excusing that. It was a stupid thing to do, but good players make stupid mistakes. If we were being critical on Brandon Smith, he made a lot of dumb errors when he first started. That's what enthusiastic young players do. And if I can sort of demonstrate that point, the best example of that is Billy Slater. He did it all his career. And this is just a segue to something I did during the week, because I watched, obviously needing some sport to fill me in, the old recall in the NRL, not NRL 360, but NRL on Fox Sports did the grand final recall for 2012. And it was with Cooper Cronk, and he was saying, he was looking at Billy Slater. You go back, Billy Slater nearly threw a stupid intercept pass 45 seconds into the game, and we could have been 6-0 down, because I can't remember who it was, but they knocked it on. So what's Billy Slater do? 45 seconds into a grand final, he's just thrown an absolute blunder that could have ruined the game. but he keeps taking risks throughout the rest of the game because the reward is so high. So I don't mind a few silly mistakes if you can back it up by with your skill and with your critical thinking later on in the game.
And I've heard Billy and both Bellamy talk about, Billy loves to, especially when he was younger, play that, just take a risk, just off the cuff sort of stuff. Whilst Bellamy's a much more sort of conservative, stick with your plays, sort of type of coach. And I think Bellamy, and I think Pappenhausen said something similar, that, there's a few like little things that he wants to try in games, but Bellamy just tells him, right, if you're going to do something that risky, practice it and make sure, it's not the first time you're pulling this out, in the game when the game's on the line. Make sure you practice it, so many times in training. So I think that's where Bellamy found that compromise. And I think that's good coaching, because you don't want to, you've got those creative players, right? You don't want to, stifle them and take away that creativity, because they are the exciting players. When those plays come off, everyone's like, wow, that's amazing.
And it can win you a big game.
Yeah, it can, so, but anyway, it was a really solid performance. Don't think, my only sort of criticism of the game is we let him in with a try. Now, I know that sounds crazy how we let the Roosters in, but I really wanted to keep that 0 on the board. And it was just those last 15, 20 minutes. But those last 15, 20 minutes, Bellamy said, I think in the press conference, both teams had injuries on the night, and both teams had players playing out of position on the night. So it became a bit of a disjointed sort of last 15, 20 minutes.
The last 15, 20 minutes was a bit cringy to watch at times. It wasn't high quality. And look, part of that, I suspect, was probably a bit of game management too. I think Bellamy's learned a few lessons in his time, like any long-serving coach has. It's nice to put your foot on an opponent's throat, but if you do it at potentially the cost of your players' physical well-being, or if you do it in a way that takes attention away from your preparation for the next game, it's not worth doing. The game was won after 20 minutes, really, or certainly by half-time.
All right, so moving on from there, why don't we have we've mentioned the injuries. Why don't we actually look at the injury report at the moment? So I got this off the
Look
Storm
away now,
forum, the old bystand forum today.
There's a content warning here. It's very distressing.
Yeah, one post, one forumite. Guys, get around the forums. Get off this social media stuff. It's all about forums. I love forums.
It's very old school of you, Mr. Bowl.
Yeah, well, the Storm forum is still ticking over. The game thread still gets about 4 or 5 pages.
Well, give it a plug. What's the URL?
It's stormfans. I don't even know. Hang on, let me have a look. I just write STO and then it comes stormfans.club. That's
there you go, stormfans.club. Get around.
Obviously, www. Sign up. I mean, you might all have an account that you haven't checked in about 20 years. Maybe not 20, maybe 10 years. Because it was the old bystand forum, which I was a big reader of, but I only really joined this
Possibly
year.
Have my own dormant account there. I'll have to find out. But anyway, I digress. Tell us about the injuries.
All right. So Finucane, that one happened at training as well. It's like
training injuries suck.
That one's more frustrating. It's like what? I don't want to blame anyone, but what were you guys doing at training that's pushed a player to, shouldn't you be monitoring his workload and all this sort of stuff? Anyway, I guess
we don't know. It could have been.
We don't know the circumstances, but
players have freak
5 or 6. Munster's another 1 or 2. We all know about his medial cruciate ligament. Chance for the Manly game following obviously para this week, but unlikely. Cam Smith won't be named this week, but he's likely to play against Manly. Tuikama Kamika, he had that back surgery. He should be available for finals. Marion Seve's ear is back. He had it sort of ripped or severed, I think, a couple of weeks ago. He was a chance to be named in the 21 today, so I'll go to that in a second. Sully with the broken jaws, 4 to 6 weeks. That was something that you didn't really that
nowhere.
Was yeah. Momorovsky's finger, he's back home in Sydney. We'll have to quarantine when he comes back, but he should be fit for finals. So interesting one, that one. Max King, Achilles, started some training, still a month away, and Jerome Hughes groin. Hasn't trained since Thursday. This was posted, I think, earlier today. So he's unlikely. I don't think he was named in the team today.
I think we have to assume he's going to miss.
Yeah, and Ricky Latelli, so obviously our signing from the Wolfpack, Joins the squad tomorrow week. It apparently took a while for him to get a flight because obviously international
COVID times.
flights.
I'm surprised he got here at all this quickly.
Yeah, and he'll need 2 weeks of training to get. So obviously he's got to quarantine for a couple of weeks. Then he'll need a few more weeks to get up to any sort of fitness. So I think we'll be lucky to see him before finals. At all, he might even play this year, but I guess time will tell.
I'd say it depends on other injuries. Bellamy's left quality players out of squads before if they're not right at that time.
Yeah, Bellamy's definitely. I think he's conservative. I think you need to have a few runs on the board. He's not going to make sort of a wild choice unless absolutely necessary. And the other thing we need, and news in, so this, knew this was about an hour and a half ago from when we were filming. Jesse was suspended. Jesse Bromwich was suspended for that God knows what tackle. That was so strange. Did you even see the tackle? Go back and watch it?
I wasn't
went back and watched it, and it's like, what? It just looked like a stock standard tackle. I don't even know what he got suspended for, but Storm pleaded not guilty, and which I fully support.
I would agree with.
And he's gone for this week as well, unfortunately. So
I think that is actually a very harsh suspension when you see what, through clumsiness or carelessness, people can actually get away with in terms of tackling. I mean, it is still a game where goodness knows how many relatively low impact headshots go unnoticed. Sometimes they're not even penalised. And something like Jesse's tackle goes for a week. You're thinking, well, okay, fine, but let's get some kind of consistency. Or we're either making sure tackling is safe and protecting people, or we're just picking and choosing what our hot button issue for tackling is anyway. I won't get on a soapbox rant, but suffice to say, I was surprised too.
Absolute joke. And then, the other interesting thing, Dub's talking point from the Rooster, well, not really talking point because no one was talking about it. It came up after the game that there was a moment in the game we had 14 on the field. I think it was just after Sully. And not much has been said about that. I think the initial article said that we're likely to get fined. Premiership points, taking away premiership points wasn't an option.
No, it seems it would
but
be.
We haven't heard anything about it. I mean, everyone's talking this week. It's about Proctor. It's about Anthony Seibold. It's about racist fans at Gosford. So I don't know if it's just not very high on people's priority list, but I'm just a bit, I don't know. I'm a bit suspicious that something's going on behind the scenes. I just hope if we do get punished, it's no more than a fine. So
my gut read on it is that it's more of a clerical error than anything in terms of the game. I don't think the Roosters are feeling too sick about it. They're probably thinking, geez, we played ordinary and got done. Let's not draw any more attention to this. Let's not offer any false excuses. Mind you, this would be the Roosters that got a dodgy 6 again call to win a premiership last year. So I'm sure they're thinking, maybe we should just keep our mouths shut over minor sort of clerical errors like that. I think you and I would agree, and any reasonable observer would agree that as much as we can't have breaches to that rule, in this instance, this did not in any way alter the outcome of the game. And a fine is surely appropriate. Well,
Dubs, do you know what can happen in AFL if one team suspects? Can I tell our viewers?
Please do. It is a fun story.
This is the most. I only found this out through this American YouTube channel, and they had this segment called Weird Rules or something. So if we suspect the other team has an extra player on the field, we can call for a head count. In AFL, they can call for a head count. So correct me if I get this wrong, Dubs. I don't follow the AFL. And then so the referee or the umpire stops the game and does a head count. And if the other team does have an extra player on the field, then their team gets wiped out to 0 and you keep playing. And there was a famous incident, and you can find this on YouTube. Have you seen this, Dubs, in the SANFL, the South Australian State League?
I have, yep.
I can't remember the teams playing, but basically one team's trying to, quickly run off and the other team's trying to push players back on the field. And what a farcical rule. But
it is farcical. It is a product of a bygone era, surely, because let's be honest, with all the cameras we have now and all the rotations, there's, you're going to notice if 4 people back when the rule was implemented, if you had a couple of substitutes, or even if you weren't using substitutes, you'd have to sneak someone on. So I have actually seen it happen once in the AFL, and I don't know if it was just
Really?
someone was having a laugh. It was a dead rubber game late in the season. Off the top of my head, I think it was like a Freo versus St Kilda game. Margin was about 40 points, and maybe one team brought a interchange on too early, and the other team just said, "Bugger this, we're going to absolutely stick it up." And I remember distinctly the middle of the field, both teams were lined up almost like they were doing the national anthem, and the umpires had to go along and do head counts. So clearly the rule is still there as something that just never gets done. But there is a story in the old VFL in the 40s, I think it's like a Melbourne Essendon game or something off the top of my head. One team was getting done, called for a head count late in the game, and ended up winning something like 11 points to 4 or something like that, and the most ridiculous outcome. Yeah. So it is a funny old rule, and obviously in this day and age, it really has no place, because with all the interchange officials from both clubs and the referees as well, you really shouldn't have a situation where people can sneak players on. It's just the idea is it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we move on to our game next week, or shall we look at the results?
Give us a quick run through of the results, then let's talk about the upcoming clash.
Let me just quickly share the screen. We'll just get through these pretty quickly. There's some exciting games on the weekend. I was able to watch Sunday's games and caught glimpses of other games this week, but there were some exciting games. So obviously we beat the Roosters. Panthers were pushed all the way there by the Warriors, but the Panthers just keep winning, 9 in a row for them now. Mary McGregor's last game for the Dragons, they won. Not really a fairy tale ending, but a nice way to finish his time there. The Sharks and the Titans, that was a good game. Like, until the biting incident, it was 12-all. Titans looking good, and then then Proctor was sent off, and that was all she wrote for the Titans. The Bunnies got up over the Cowboys. The Cowboys really should have won that one. More pain for the Broncos. Broncos are leading at halftime. They seem to always be okay for the first half, and then just completely fall in a hole in the second half. Another exciting game, the Knights and Sea Eagles. That was a real important game, obviously, for the battle for the finals. We'll look at the ladder in a second. And then we finished it off on Sunday with another one-point thriller. West Tigers and the Bulldogs. The Tigers out to a huge lead. I think it was like 24-6 or something. The Bulldogs came back, but they just, they've left themselves too much work to do. But
poor old doggies, they are having a
there's a lot of
a couple of, I think, 4 games of 2 points or less.
It's a very good weekend. Good, exciting weekend of football. All right, let's have a look at the ladder. So obviously we've got the Panthers still. Then we are second. So mathematically, if we win this week, we are officially in the finals for 2020.
That's good.
Not that I think we're in danger of falling out.
No.
Para's third, and having a look here, there's this bit of a gap now. Para's got a 2-game gap over the 4th and 5th there, and then there's a real 4th down to 8th. The battle for 4th place. I think that's where it's on. I mean, who knows? Para might. They weren't very good last week.
No.
But there's going to be good battle for the top 4. A lot of people are saying, a lot of commentators and pundits are saying the finals are shut now. I mean, there's a 2-game gap now, 9th and 10th. But I mean, there's still 6 rounds to go. There's still a lot of football to be played.
You never know. It takes one bad weekend for the Bunnies and one good weekend for the Tigers, and all of a sudden it's open again.
Yeah, exactly. So there's still a lot of football to be played. I wouldn't say it's season over for Manly and Wests yet. But
I'd say 11 down is over. The Dragons, Warriors, they won't be eyeing off finals anymore. I mean, mathematically, they'll keep trying for it, but I don't think they'll be planning on it at this stage.
Yeah, and the bottom 5, 4 or 5 is not really going to change. I keep wanting the Doggies to win just so they put Brisbane last. And that's the thing. Like, if you look at the Dogs for and against, it's minus 154. Like, they just put up more of a fight than the Broncos, and that's why I don't feel they
better than the Titans, who are 2-3 spots above them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that. So let's move on to next week. Obviously, next week in 2 days' time, we've got the Thursday game again. Obviously, the Eels are third. We're outsiders again, not $3 this week, $2.25.
I think with our injury toll, that's probably more of an appropriate indication of what the odds should be. I think we are quite rightly underdogs for this. Still giving us a very good chance, but it's going to be tough with all our outs.
Yeah, so we're live on Channel 9. Which is good. Just a quick one, Dubs. Do you prefer, if you got the choice between 9 and Fox, who do you prefer watching? Which commentary team do
I
you
suppose I've
prefer?
gotten so used to Fox that they'd almost be my default, but that doesn't mean I'm particularly fond of them. So I'm probably actually leaning towards if I enjoy the commentary of Nine better than I enjoy the commentary of Fox, even though I'd hear more Fox because that's generally where I'm watching my Storm games.
Yeah, see,
Yourself?
I'm Nine, like, and I think for me it was more evident. As you know, Dubs, I'm sometimes in a bit of in a Zoom chat with a few of our mates on during the games, and a couple of us were on Nine, a couple of us were on Fox, and we were comparing the commentary, and it just seems certain, like, those 50-50 incidents, the Fox were very more anti-Storm than
They're
the
not
Nine
fans of
guys, so
ours.
I'm
They're
leaning
definitely
towards
not.
Nine on that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so ins, Vitae, Lewis, John Schoening, Seve is in, Sandor Oil, outs Finucane, Vunivalu, and obviously Jesse Bromwich has been named, but yeah, he's suspended. So, who do you imagine is going to step up? I mean, we can slot Nelson in there.
Interesting
Um,
that Hughes has been named at halfback on a side note, but sorry,
oh, actually, yeah, you're right. I didn't notice that. So Jerome has been named.
I would still keep half an eye on that. But we won't be able to play Jesse Bromwich there. My feel is that with the number 9 likely going to Brandon Smith at this point, I can see them starting Nelson.
Yeah, and then let's have a look at our reserve survey. So Cooper Johns, I think Belly mentioned he might step in for Hughes.
Quite
That'd be
possibly.
exciting. Matty Johns'
Keep your
son.
eye on that right up until selection, until
Uh,
kickoff.
yeah, Chris Lewis, Darren Schoenig. I don't really know too many about some of these guys, but
Marion
yeah,
Sebe's had some game time before, so I still rate him quite highly. I'm not sure if he's reserved because he's just incumbency is lost or if he's still not 100% ready to go. But I'd keep an eye on that. I just looking at the bench as well. Interestingly, Nico Hines, I'm actually quite starting
yeah,
to warm up to the way Nico Hines is playing. I'm fond of Eisenhuth, so I'm glad to see him getting a run.
yep.
Look, I think it'll be very interesting to see how the starting lineup goes. I'm actually quietly a bit excited to see Sandor Earl back. I don't mind watching Sandor Earl play. I thought he showed us some
Big
good signs.
task
Sorry?
against Sevo. He's got a big job against
Yeah,
Sevo.
it's massive. But, he's probably thinking this is my chance. Storm's likely playing finals. I have a chance to show Bellamy why I'm worthwhile. I've done it in the past when I've come into sides. Clearly, Sully is going to be the preference. But if Sully's got a potentially longer-term injury, you never know how that might play out or what
Exactly.
Sandor can do if he has a good game a good few games over here. It might be hard for Bellamy to say, well, I'm dropping you. There are players here who are playing with the chance to go into a finals campaign and maybe play in a premiership. That's a real good. I'm glad to see Tino started at lock.
Yep.
Devastated to see Finucane go out, but someone's got to step up. And Tino, for the time we still have him, is an absolute young gun. But yeah, I'm thinking with that being the case, I'm just going to assume that Nelson goes to prop to start.
Yeah. And so what do we need to do to beat Parramatta, Dubs? Where's the secret?
Well, if we can get Jerome out there, that's hugely important because we're going to need to be able to keep a few of those playmakers going. But I'm still going to think with a bit of a stretched backline or a backline that's still a little bit mishmash, I think this is going to be a game for the forwards. I think that we need to rely on our incredibly strong and powerful forward pack. We're going to be looking at a good field position. We're going to be looking to dominate them physically right from kickoff. I think this is actually a game that's tailor-made for a Nelson night. And my mind defaults to kickoff at the prelim final last year when Nelson got himself sent off in the first play. Maybe control himself a bit better than that. But I think this is a game where if we can bully them physically, that'll free up our backs to be a bit more creative.
And we've had the wood of them recently. I think guys like Kafusi, some of the older heads now need to step up collectively. I mean, and that's what I think it was Pappenhausen said after the Roosters game. He said it wasn't up to anyone individually to step up, and in the absence of those players, everyone had to step up. So I think your Bromwiches, Kafusis, Welch, we're talking about him as being an older head, but your Addo Cars, they really need to they need to be a big presence in the game.
There's no one in there, perhaps apart from Kenny Bromwich, who really would be, and Kafusi more so than Kenny Bromwich, but Kenny Bromwich has been with us a little while now. We don't have any elder statesmen there. And the fact that you can take out Cameron Smith, Jesse Bromwich, Dale Finucane, and I know Munster's a little younger than them, but he's a well-established leader. You take out those 4 players, you're probably taking out the best 4 leaders at the club.
Yeah.
that is, you're taking out your captain, your vice captain, your other vice captain, or your other leadership player in Finucane, and all of a sudden you're going, well, there's all your leadership gone.
Yeah, exactly. Who's the captain?
Playmaker.
Kenny? Is Kenny captain on Thursday?
I'm guessing he will be. I'm not actually certain because, Jesse would be, but Kenny's probably the most senior player after that, off the top of my head. We'd have to go into the record books to see who our most capped players are, because I just don't know off the top of my head. I know that we've got some superstars like Josh Adokar, but he's still a relatively young player. Papa's a superstar, but he's a relatively young player. And then Earl, Lee, Olam, they've all had good moments, but none of them are elder statesmen. Yeah. Nelson's getting to be one of the older statesmen of that side because he's been with
Nelson captain.
Make Nelson captain. Yeah. I wouldn't mind that. Make him step up. And then you look at the reserves, and hopefully we don't have to dip into that too much, but you don't have a lot of firepower or star power there. You'd be hoping to avoid exposing them against a big side.
Yeah. All right, Dubs. That's just about it with the serious stuff for the night?
I think we've talked all the serious stuff we can. It's up to the forwards to bully Parramatta into submission and let our backs do their work.
Exactly right. All right. So if I'm not mistaken, we're up to Paul's ponderings for this week.
Tell me what you're pondering, my Polish friend.
So watching the Bull, this was meant for last week. Obviously, we couldn't do a show last week. So I think Nicho Hynes, watching it, we said he looked like Heath Ledger, and then on our Zoom chat, and then even the commentators later actually said exactly the same thing. So got me thinking, lookalikes and Storm lookalikes. Some of these you may have seen before. A couple of have come up. I don't think I've individually come up with anything. I think I've all heard it from mates or just in general rugby league circles. So here's Nicho Hynes and Heath Ledger. Split the difference.
It's phenomenal. In fact, the fact that Heath grew out a little moustache there, if he'd taken that away, he didn't usually have that. He would have looked a dead ringer.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Nico's got a bit of a moustache happening. The next one, this is one of my favourites. It's, as you can see, I sold. So for those who don't know, that person on the left in the whites, Martina Navratilova, the former Czech tennis player, and Craig Bellamy. They're a spitting image, Tubbs. Look at them.
They are. Like
this. And then I saw another one where they've both got glasses on again, and they look exactly the same.
I can picture Craig running around Wimbledon in the whites and smashing it back over the top. And wow, Bellyache and Navratilova. That's if you could have swapped their shirts digitally, you could have convinced me.
Yeah. The next one, here we go. Ryan Hoffman and James Bond or
Daniel Craig.
I thought that was a good one.
That's good. Definitely in the brow, the eyes and the brow, particularly the short crop parted hair. Hoff's probably a little bit bigger across the chest, although Daniel Craig wasn't exactly small. Just didn't have probably quite the bulk that Hoffy did.
Yeah, I love Hoffy. I don't even know what his role at the club is, but I love that he's still around. So that's awesome.
Everyone loves Hoffy.
Yeah,
I think his role is just to be good bloke. There we go. There's our old mate, Captain Kirk.
Had to bring Reynolds up again, his beard.
I think we can find a few Kirk Reynoldson memes and jokes along the way. He was a very popular figure at the time.
Yeah. And that's obviously Ned Kelly there on the left.
Ned Kelly with the hipster hair going on back there.
The original hipster.
If he was serving you a coffee in Brunswick, you wouldn't be feeling out of place.
I was thinking about Reynoldson too and his beard. He really had the hipster beard before it became cool. So he's out hipstered the hipsters, really, Reynoldson.
He just looks at them now and thinks, that's sad.
Yeah.
I did that before. It was cool. Yeah. I was what you aimed to be, Melbourne.
Exactly. All hipsters are trying to be Kirk.
Maybe hipsters are actually secretly paying homage to the great Kirk Reynoldson, and they're just too ashamed to tell us that they're Storm fans.
Yeah. This one's one of my favourites. So
that's brilliant.
That's Matt King, who breaks my heart that he's now like a trainer or an assistant coach or something like that.
He should be a Storm man.
And the man on the left is Matt Stone, creator of South Park, but also particularly in this movie. The movie's called Basketball. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's a great movie.
It's a great way to leave your brain at the door and laugh very hard at juvenile humor.
And just even when I saw Matt King, because Basketball came out, I think a couple of years before Matt King joined the club. And as soon as I saw Matt King, I'm like, that's Doug Reamer from Basketball. And
Reamer.
Yeah.
We just need a lookalike for Trey Parker in that film. Someone with sort of a thinnish blonde hair. But I'll leave that to you.
And then Lucian, that's Thistlethwaite, the lead singer of Thirsty Merc. I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't really know the music, but I remember his look, and that kind of makes sense. A little bit more curly as Cafoose, but
I think I think this one's we need to credit our mate Marcus, aka Strawny, for this one.
thanks, Strawny.
Anyway,
I can definitely see that. He likes his
yeah,
music too, Strawny. So clearly got
yep,
interest. I don't know if he's a fan of Thirsty Merc, but I'll have to find out.
yep. This next one,
Is
Tino.
that Michelle Timms?
Again, it's Michelle Tim. So we got Tino. This is obviously when he had the blonde hair. Again, drawing him into a long bow here. But then we have Kathy Watt, the
Kathy Watt,
Australian
legend,
Olympic cyclist from the '90s. All these
superstar.
characters are from the '90s, really.
All these
Michelle
characters are
Timms
superstars. I wasn't a fan of Shane Hill because he played
and
against
Shane
them.
Heal. Just the blonde hair, that blonde hair just takes you back to the late '90s, early 2000s when that was sort of the thing to do, the peroxide blonde hair. So, anyways, that's our Tino. And
Even
now,
the dark on the side, Michelle Timms could be Tino.
yeah, yeah, it's true. All right, and I think the next one's our last one. Oh no, no, not our last one. This one is Tui Kamakamika, and I've forgotten this guy's name. He was an actor.
He was what?
Davis Jr.
Sammy Davis Jr. Yeah,
Sammy
rapper.
Davis Jr. There we go. What do you reckon?
I was going to say, I thought that was Sammy Davis Jr. from the rapper. Yeah, I reckon. Slightly different in the jaw. Sammy Davis had the longer jawline, but I reckon the brow and the cropped hair with the beard definitely has a bit of that
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, I reckon. And
Plus, Sammy Davis Jr. was always smiling, so he was always upbeat and telling jokes. So it doesn't quite fit that headshot there with the frowning face, but definitely some of the features.
yeah, and sometimes with these, you just got to get them like in with the similar haircut and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of haircuts, next one. Here we go.
That's
The
perfect.
man who's been in the news, Kevin Proctor, and his grug haircut. I love that haircut. It's
Good
very
old
original.
Kevin Proctor. Kevin Proctor was brilliant. Loved Kevin Proctor, and it was sad because actually now the news has come out, or the news is suggesting that perhaps Kevin wasn't actually biting anyone. That
Yeah, he's in the judiciary now, or would have just finished up, I think.
keep an eye on that, folks. Was Kevin harshly sent off? I mean, we love Kevin Proctor. He's a premiership player at the Storm. Again, watching the grand final recall from 2012 the other day, remembering how much we were fond of Kevin Proctor in the second row or as prop, or yeah, good Storm man. So disappointing
Yeah,
that he was sent off in his milestone game.
I thought when I was watching the game, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that was definitely a bite. But the more you watch it, the more you think his mouth's open, but he's not actually clenching. You know, he's injured his voice box, so maybe he was literally just trying to gasp for air. I think he's got a strong case, but
Who knows?
interesting to see what happens. Hopefully, it just doesn't ruin his reputation. He gave many good years of service to Storm.
Yeah, and let's be fair to him. It's not like he gained a reputation for being thuggish or
No.
dirty. I mean, he was strong and tough and hard. And not saying he was an angel, but wouldn't you say Kevin Proctor? Wouldn't picture him biting someone. It's not a James Graham type bloke.
No, no, and yeah, it's very out of character for him. All right, so we finish it up with the memes of the week.
Does Mr. Proctor feature here? Because I saw a couple of Proctor memes pop up.
It does, yeah. There's a lot of Proctor memes. I think I've only picked a couple. Okay, the first one. I thought Freddie Fittler. I like him. I like him as a commentator, but I thought this was funny.
That's not bad. I mean, I don't mind Brad Fittler. Got nothing against the guy. It's a very interesting
Having
choice.
a type of jacket, but those guys got to be on the cutting edge of fashion.
I was going to say, rugby league commentators, you don't usually think of them as being sort of fashionable types.
No.
There's a couple of heads there that we know quite well.
This is obviously after Mary got sacked. The thing that makes this meme is on the top photo, look at Dean Pay's face as Hans Moleman.
Dean Pay as Hans Moleman he's actually got the hangdog expression. He looks like, what was the name of that manically depressed dog?
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't remember. He always had the big hangdog expression.
Yes.
That's Dean Pay right there. I've just got to say, has Stephen Kearney aged a day? He's got a little bit of salt and pepper in his hair, but he looks ridiculously good shape.
Yeah, he does. And then the other one is in the bottom photo, Disco Stu. I love how he's like, he's a great Simpsons character. The next one, this one was obviously after we beat the Roosters. We're just bashing them.
Rugby league machine. Arr.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I tried to pick the Storm ones out. This was quite a bit of a chuckle. When your dad's the coach, you're the only one who gets the Super Dupers. So that was pretty good. wonder if it's one of those hydrolyte ones. You can get those
I'm
hydrolyte.
sure it would be. I don't think you'd be having an actual Super Duper. Maybe it is. I
Could
don't
be
know.
post game. Quick sugar
Could be
fix.
post game. Better than having a beer.
This was news recently today about how the Warriors. What is the NRL thinking? The Warriors have like sacrificed, the whole year just so the league can play. They've done so much so we can play, and they're telling him now they can't have their sponsor they've had for 20 odd years. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, here's a meme about it.
This is crazy. This is one where the NRL and Telstra go, hey, it's a one-off. The league is running. It wasn't going to run. They can put a few Vodafone signs up. Get over yourself.
Where's just the, is it the word humanity? But where's just the civility in this? Like, come on.
If I'm the Warriors right now and going, hey, we can't meet our contractual obligations, I guess we can't play. See ya.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be playing.
We're not going to win the league. We'll just give a big middle finger to you and say to our sponsors, sorry, guys, we can't meet our obligations. Guess we're not playing. And we'll mess up the league for everyone.
And how serious is the NRL about the game in New Zealand if this is how they're treating the Warriors? Like,
when did the priority become placating a sponsor that's already getting a fantastic deal out of it? I don't know if this is Telstra's doing or the NRL's doing, or they just don't want to. They think it's the thin end of the wedge. I think this is reasonable. I think this is tit for tat. This is the Warriors. No, we've turned the meme section into a serious discussion now. But yeah, get over yourself, NRL.
All right. This was, I think, reference to the 10 players who were caught in the pub. We all do a run an hour.
Whoops.
Fair enough.
Oh, it's not a fun year at the Broncos.
No. Yeah, we haven't even mentioned them.
Great timing of the photo there because it really does look like he's coming up with a plan.
Yeah. And here we go, Kevin Proctor. Ever meet times. This is one of my favorite Simpsons moments. And then I just love the kid that he's just rapping him. Not even he's just in the zone. Anyway.
And he just doesn't even notice. And we need the follow-up meme with, "Ow, damn, Kevin Proctor took a bite out of me."
Yeah. Anyway, and then the last one, again, another Proctor one.
I feel so sorry for Kevin Proctor.
I hope he gets. So do I, but it's still funny. Look at Perinara's face. Look how serious he is.
He's very upset. He's seen something there. He's in shock. He's had some trauma by seeing something.
Yeah, and that's the memes for this week, Dubs. So there was plenty of talking points, I guess, across the league. So.
Outstanding work, Mr. Poll. And I guess that brings us to the end of another edition of the Graveyard Shift. And we've got another challenge this weekend, but we're up against it against Sydney last week against the Roosters. So we're up against it against Parramatta this week. No reason we can't win. We've had a fantastic run. Can we keep it going? If we did, it would make us an absolute... I think top 4 is still very much an achievable goal that we should be aiming for. But if we were to beat Para, undermanned with the good players to come back afterwards, I would say top 2 is becoming more and more likely. So
if we win this week, I don't want to jinx it, but I can't see us. I can't see us not winning. If that makes sense. I think would be we're definitely the favourites if we can. To win the league if we can win this.
Irrespective of result, we do need to be able to manage it. So if Para does get the better of us, we do need to make sure that margin doesn't blow out. We don't want the points differential to become a factor because that will still be something taking it down to late in the season, most likely. Anyway, Mr. Poll, that'll bring us to the end of the Graveyard Shift. Make sure you're watching the Mighty Storm this weekend and tune in next week to find out what we have to say. It's great having your company again, mates, and I'm looking forward to chatting about hopefully another great win against Parramatta.
No worries, Dubs. And as always, guys, if you like the video, share it, subscribe, like, etc., etc. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dubs. And see you guys later.
Thanks, folks. Catch ya.